Hey there, Sharon Horne-Ellstrom here. Welcome to day 333 of our Let's Grow annual challenge. Today we are talking about number 28 of our No Nonsense November tip and tool. And our tip today is to practice forgiveness. Our tool being forgiveness worksheet or forgiveness workbook. And I'll share the key components of that, but you can always Google and look one up. But being a holiday, you might not want to do that. So I'll just touch on the highlights and you can go ahead and do this as you go about your day. Normally I would talk about gratitude or being thankful on Thanksgiving Day. It's Thanksgiving here in the USA, but we already did that as tip and tool number 8, gratitude, practice gratitude, and have a gratitude journal. I will reinforce my belief in the importance of being grateful and having a gratitude journal, being thankful for what is working in our lives and focusing on that instead of what's not. Because if what we put our energy and attention on, we create more of in our life. So, got my grateful shirt on today because it's Thanksgiving. I have a ton of cooking to do. The only thing I've made for Thanksgiving dinner ahead of time this year is brownies, and they're not even frosted yet. So, lots of cooking, and I love cooking, so it's a fun day for me. But why do we want to practice or cultivate or get good at forgiveness? Forgiveness is one of those things I don't think I had to experience. I didn't experience a lot of loss when I was a child or a lot of big, huge challenges. But as I got older, of course, I had disappointments and losses and things, and learned that people will hurt us. A lot of times they don't do it intentionally. They're just doing it for their own reasons. But they will hurt our feelings. They will hurt our hearts. They will break our hearts. They will cause us all kinds of emotional challenges and drama if we let them. It's always up to us how we're going to respond to anything. I'm at the age and the time and the level of wisdom. I like to think that if somebody and something doesn't feel good for me, I just say no and walk away. It's not worth the energy and the heartache that comes along with dealing with a situation that doesn't feel right in the first place. It took me a lot of decades to learn that. Forgiveness is, of course, as much for us. It's actually more for us in a healing process than it is anything else. We don't forgive people for what they do. We forgive them to let ourselves off the hook. And mostly we forgive them in order to forgive ourselves for the part that we played in whatever interaction or situation we had. Maybe we just made a bad choice. I've got lots of examples in my life and my past where I look at a choice I made. It led to a result that I did not like or feel good about at all. And then I had to make a different choice. But I also had to forgive myself for making that wrong choice in the first place, or what turned out to be wrong. Because at the time, we never make a choice we think is bad or wrong. We think we're doing the best thing for ourselves at the time. And only after the fact and after things play out do we understand or know if it was really the right choice for us or not. This is true of everything in our lives. So we need to be willing to forgive other people. And we especially need to be willing to forgive ourselves, because that's where the true healing happens. And that's more of what I want to focus on today than the actual how do I forgive other people for hurting me. Well, that's pretty easy. We identify the hurt. We identify the source of the hurt. Where did it come from? What happened? What situation was involved? Then we exercise empathy. Step 2 is to be empathetic, put ourselves in the other person's shoe. Doesn't mean we're going to ever agree with what they did and that it was right, because if we're hurt, it probably wasn't right. But we're going to understand where they might have been coming from if we're not going to have a conversation with them. And we're probably not going to if they actually hurt us. Then we do something called a letter writing process. I've only done this a handful of times or so, maybe 2 handfuls of times in my lifetime, because I save it for the really big things. But it's a really effective strategy for letting things go. You write a practice letter you're never going to send to the person, although if you're super duper brave, you will. Or if you want to deal with the blowback, because there's always blowback, because people don't want to know that they've ever hurt anyone else, or that if they're mentally disturbed, it would give them a sense of power. So we don't usually send those letters, but we write them to get it all out of our system, right? And to help us deal with the emotions that were linked to a situation that hurt us. And then we do letting go practices. We've talked about letting go practices. It was one whole day. And like I said then, if you need some creative ways to let something go, ask me, because I've done tons of them. I think that the healthiest thing we can do, just like with our practicing gratitude every day, being thankful for things, we can build forgiveness and our forgiveness strategy and practice into our everyday activities. At the end of the day, I always review my day as part of my end of the day ritual. I have a morning ritual and an end of the day ritual before I go to sleep. And part of that is gratitude always. But sometimes if something hurt my feelings, but it's also a review of the situations and the things that happened that day. And it's a review of the situation. And if something like that negative came up that hurt me, then I will add and go through the forgiveness steps and a little forgiveness ritual to let go of that before I go to sleep. So I don't sleep on it. I only want to sleep on things that are moving me toward what I want. I don't want to sleep on things that are stressing me out. So our tool today is the recommended forgiveness workbook. We've been talking, it's been on like a week of workbooks. I'm like, if I really thought I had to do all these workbooks, I would be overwhelmed. So let's say a workbook or a worksheet or just a series of like the 4 steps or questions that you can work through for those more complicated, bigger hurts that we want to get rid of and really let go of and forgive ourselves and the emotional charge that's around them. But to make it a daily practice, like I said, I just build it into my nighttime routine. Or if it's something big during the day, I deal with it right then and there. I don't let it fester till the end of the day. We want to reflect on what happens and what things triggered it. Sometimes we will have gone through and forgiven somebody else for something, and a different thing, a totally different, unrelated topic or thing will come up in our life that actually triggers those old memories. And we don't want that. We don't want things that hurt us to rear their ugly heads. And so we want to deal with them right away. So we want to pay attention to those things that trigger us. If there's a certain person, place, or thing that triggers me, I'm going to avoid that person, place, or thing. We want to cultivate, again, empathy. We talked about empathy. We want to be able to put ourselves in the other person's shoe, but not always. We want to just make it an everyday practice that we treat people the way we want to be treated. We want to engage in forgiveness exercises or practices. Pay attention to if forgiveness technology comes down the road that could help us, or tools, different tools that come down the road. Pay attention to those and learn about them and just put them back in your toolbox and pull them out when you need them. That's what I do. Remember to practice self-forgiveness. I will say that gratitude and self-forgiveness and cutting ourselves some slack is probably a couple of the most important things we can do for ourselves no matter what situation we're in. And then meditate on forgiveness. Give it some thought every once in a while, right? Most of us don't ever think about it at all. We just go through our daily lives and run through them and just deal with things as they come up. But if we want to be more proactive in any area or aspect of our life, sometimes we just spend a dedicated time actually pondering it and thinking about it with our own very magical brains, and we figure out what's right for us. So today, forgive yourself for something. I was going to say forgive somebody or something, but I'm going to say, as we're dealing with our families and friends, just be kind to one another. Forgive ourselves for our differences of opinion, because they really, in the long run, don't matter at all. I'm thinking of Thanksgiving gatherings that are and are not happening because people are ridiculously cutting people out of their families over political nonsense, right? Over things that they have no control over. I guarantee families that are being split over this rift over politics right now, they have no involvement in the actual physical situation at all. It's all emotional. It's all been I want to say fantasized by the media and propagandized and lied. People, we've been lied to so much, it's hard to know what's the truth nowadays. And that's why it's imperative that we turn off all the noise and we turn on our brains and we think for ourselves. And if we've fallen prey to this, and I, like everybody else, fall prey to that sometimes, the media and the social media and the hype and the lies, but then I step back and I forgive myself for getting sucked into it, and I just move on with what's important to me in my life. And I recommend that you do the same. That's it. If I can help you in any way, hit me up and ask. I'm going to be cooking in the kitchen, so you're welcome to call me if you got a question. Have an awesome day, an amazing Thanksgiving, and I will, of course, be with you tomorrow and avoiding all the Black Friday insanity. Have a great day. Bye. Happy Thanksgiving.